The CEO Diaries, powered by Harper Ellis Hair Co.
Hello everyone. I am super excited for this episode. Of course, I'm always excited for every episode. Y'all probably like, you say that every time you start an episode. But I have a really exciting guest on here today, and I know that you guys are gonna be excited for it. Again, if you're watching video, you can already see him, but I have Creighton Ellis.
Hey.
I'm pumped for you guys to hear from him today. We have so much to talk about. A big subject inside of our company is, assistants and the dynamic of that, and we are going to get into that. But, if you guys have been to a class with Harper Ellis Hair Co., you've met Creighton, everyone knows Creighton, but we haven't really ever dove into your story and, all the things, everything that you come from, and I think it's really interesting. What I think most people are going to want to hear about is how you've come out on this other side of success, and you've kind of been through it all. And yes, your story is fast. I think that, once before you've had a mentor, or you could call it a mentor, but someone that thought they were mentoring you, that thought, you still haven't put in your time and you still got, a lot of time to, and you have a lot of time. But I think what's so cool, and I know people that are listening to this that are very young in this industry, in the hair industry especially, or I think any industry for that matter, sometimes your frustration comes from I'm a young pup. I've not been in this very long. And so you feel like your success is just so far away. And so what I love about Creighton is, honestly, he has gone really fast, but he's gone very efficient. And so I'm pumped to talk more about your story. Later on in the episode, we're going to talk about, assistant programs and the things that we've implemented inside of our business that I feel like your success has come from. But first, let's dive into your story. I feel like everyone wants to hear from you. They don't get to very often. I mean, they do in class, but
exactly.
The Harper Ellis, platform, not necessarily. And so first, kind of, you just start. I'm going to let you tell it. So you start on, how you got started with me and all of that.
So it's actually started a long while ago, not really that long ago, but I guess now at this point I've been in the salon for 5 years. So, like you were saying, a lot has changed, and I've come a very long way in that short amount of time. And, just restating what you said is, in this industry, it's so common for, you get to this door and people are like, yeah, you're good, but you're not old enough.
Right.
Or you're good, but give it time. And it's you work hard, but people aren't doing that until they're, 10 years, 15 years into the industry. Well, I say screw that. I want to be where I want to be, and I'm going to do what it takes to get there at a very, fast pace.
Right. And I feel like you and I both have kind of come from those backgrounds. A lot of people, even in my story, are you've gotten there really fast. And I'm like, well, there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about that. So
But I can say that it did not start off the way that you would think it would be. When I started in this industry is actually quite longer than 5 years ago. I actually had a family friend that was a licensed instructor in cosmetology. So she actually started me at a very young age of probably...
Did you know Pumpkin?
Yes.
Did you know she did my prom hair?
Yeah, she did too. I've seen pictures.
This hairdresser he's talking about did my prom hair in high school. So and super cool, full circle.
So, and it's so crazy to think that I had someone at an early age that knew that was something that I wanted to pursue, and that she went out of her way. I never paid her anything. I would go by this her salon, and she would do what she could to teach me as much as she could in the little amount of time that I was there. But I already had your basic understanding and your more of your base level of what it is to be a professional and how to do hair.
Enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be dangerous, especially when you're doing that kitchen hair at 2 a.m. But so then I went to school. I went to one of the best schools that I could find in my area. I wanted to go to a school that I know would push me, because having that baseline, I knew that I needed to do something a little bit more than just some of your smaller schools that are teaching you what I felt like I already knew. So you can imagine, going to the school, And then, all through school, I was thinking like, man, I already know all this stuff. Like, when do I get to learn the good stuff?
Right.
So coming out of it, coming out of school, graduating, I didn't have a complete guide of like where I was going to go. At the time, another coworker that we now have, she actually started with you before I did, but she used to be at that old salon. She actually mentored me as well. So I kind of was like, so where's this, I see this fancy little salon you're at. I think I'm going to go check it out, and I'll admit, the first time I come, I was like, oh, no, that is not for me. That is way too prestigious. I'm like, I'm more of a chatty Cathy. I want to get to know my clients. I felt like at the time that no one knew their clients. But by the second visit that I come back and shadowed, I was like, they know their clients. They're connecting with their clients. But it's just the difference was this level of professionalism that I haven't necessarily always seen in the industry. And so I immediately was like, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm going to go. It's crazy now to think that I thought I knew everything when I was going to come work for you. I was so offended that she was like, Guy, you can come work for me, but you have to assist me. And I was like, bet I know what I'm doing. Like, how many more steps do I have to, jump through hoops to get to this, profession that I wanted? But little did I know that it'd be the door to the fast track to get me to the success that I, have today.
It was so funny because, in my seat, I guess you could say, I sort of saw the ego.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing, to hit on that, because I think a lot of people go into this industry with an ego, and it's because of social media. And like, now, and even when you started 5 years ago, social media isn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And, it's like you can learn so much online, and you can learn so much about the actual part of doing hair, which you always had. And so, it's not that he had this ego. I joke about that a lot, especially if you've been to our classes. It's like our running joke. But Creighton also in the same breath has always been very humble.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because the one thing that I never had to do with Creighton was get him out of bed and get him to work, or even just beg him to show up. Most of the time now, especially, I don't even ask him to show up. He just does.
I'm just here.
And so I always wanted, however, I never, so that was the thing. I want to clear that up because I think that we joke a lot in our environment about your ego per se. But you had this ego of like, I know what I'm doing as far as hair goes, but not necessarily. You showed up, and you showed up humbly because you wanted to work hard, because you did have goals. And so
I think the funniest part about even getting me to agree to it was Terra. I remember she's like, it'll only be 3 months long. 2.5 years later, thank God for COVID. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I learned that by those 3 months, I was like, no, this is where I need to be at.
Yeah.
Because you were teaching me those assets and those skills of what it is to be, a business person, a professional, like a leader in the industry. I was an assistant at the time, yet you treated me as if I wasn't. And that was what was able to get me to where I realized that I don't care if I assist you for the rest of my life. Like, I'm learning things. I was, of course, working behind the chair on her days off. So, I was benefiting from both sides.
Right, totally. And, I feel like whenever you did start and you were, I mentioned the assistant program, which at my salon, just to kind of fill you guys in, no one really comes in off the street as a stylist. You always, no matter if you've been in the industry for 30 years, I think Taryn has been the only exception. Taryn inside my salon. It's because she came on with me when the doors opened. Yeah. And when the doors opened, I obviously had to have a stylist that helped make money. And so I think she's been the only exception, maybe a couple more. But I was like, this is what we do. Or, you're gonna be an assistant. He was like, what? I don't, that's not really what I'm looking for. And I just remember thinking, and you salon owners out there that are like, oh, like I don't want to lose this person. And you sometimes conform into like what people want. And I think that's where your culture gets lost and your, sort of your, I guess your salon morals, as you can, I know that's a weird word to use, but sometimes I feel like whenever you want to build a team, you sort of like lose those things because you know that person, that's not really their idea path. But you know, when I set the career path inside my salon, it's only because I walked it myself. And so I wasn't expecting you to do something that I never did, and you knew that too, though. That was what I felt like an understanding. That you're like, well, you know, I guess so. She did it. She's not asking me to do something that she didn't do herself. But that's what's cool, is because I think quickly after you started, you realized, you know, like you said, there was so much more to learn than just how to foil hair or how to do extensions or something like that. So go into like what you learned after you started as an assistant.
One thing that I did not realize that I was not learning all these years is like I had stayed up all night, you know, watching YouTube videos, like getting, you know, YouTube University certified in everything, every method, every technique you can think of, and, you know, training with these people. But what I didn't realize was like I was always practicing this on mannequins or friends and family. Like I didn't realize that you had to communicate with people. You had to deal with clients that have opinions of their own versus you like, I'm doing it for you, so you just sit down and you get what you get. Like clients aren't like that. So, you know, learning that you have to be a people person. You have to be someone that works for, you know, the approval of somebody. You know, that was something that was just, I did not realize it at the time. So, so with that, you know, being said, going into it, learning that, you know, it was people. People was what I did not know. I knew the hair, not all of it, clearly, but that the people side of it was the biggest like manifestation that I didn't realize that I was going to need to learn.
Right. And I feel like sometimes too with that, you guys have always laughed at me, you know, when I'm dealing with clients or dealing with people, I sort of like conform into this like other person than you guys see me every day. And I remember having a conversation with you early on, and it was just like, you know, it's a different heart that leads that conversation with your clients, and it's not necessarily like you got to throw out what, you know, you want or what's best for you sometimes, and have to sort of lead with that servant's heart. And you picked up on that extremely quickly. And so it wasn't really that's something we teach every assistant that comes through. So it wasn't just you, but you know, it's just sometimes I feel like within the assistant programs out there in this industry that I hear a lot is they forget to teach that aspect of like, hey guys, it's not all about you. And you got to lose your ego, and you've got to make sure that you're serving people to the best of their ability. That's how you're going to keep clients. And what's so cool about Creighton is like he has one of the highest retaining percentages that we've ever seen, you know, that I've seen throughout the whole industry. I deal with people and their numbers a lot, or stylists and their numbs a lot. So his percentages it's the proof in the pudding sort of thing. You walk the walk. So I think that's really cool.
I had this saying that, and I know this was like right as we first started, you know, our education system. And I know some of you may have seen the jacket before. It's been a while since I've wore it, but I had that quote on there, and my quote motto was like, shed your armor. Because, you know, for so long I come into this industry, and you know, we've kind of talked about like, you know, having this ego. So I kind of wore this ego as like my armor, and I knew it's like if I acted professional and I acted like I knew what I was doing every step of the minute, and I didn't let clients, you know, run over me. It's like I wore this armor because I knew it protected me, and it protected, you know, me getting my feelings hurt or, you know, anything like that. But why I say shed your armor is because every bit of those things is what stands in your way.
Totally.
From truly connecting with clients and being able to, you know, retain those clients, because they want to know you. they want to trust you. If they're just coming to a robot that's down the street, like they can go to another robot that's down the street.
Right.
And so like, let them see a little bit of you, learn a lot about them. Like, you know, I know it's cheesy, but you know, they say, you know, like you have one mouth and two ears, so you listen twice as much as you speak. I try that a lot. All of y'all know me. Y'all know I talk a lot. So I try to tailor that to my clients. If they're the type that like to talk, I let them talk. If they're a client that wants, you know, me to listen to them, I do that too.
But I want to like kind of hit on this like armor that you have and why you have it. And the reason why is because, you know, especially now, you and I have had 5 years together.
Yes,
it's been this long relationship of we've dealt with a lot of life together. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like more now than ever, we understand each other, but we have to. We've been around each other for so long. But, you know, I want you to kind of tell them a little bit about, as much as you're comfortable with, just of your background of why you've had this armor. And I just want to kind of like preface a little bit is because, you know, you've lived this life of you're different. Yes. You're not this like, especially where we live. Like if you guys are listening, we live in the Bible Belt. Everyone around here is very vanilla, and no offense to people that are listening, but here I feel like more than a lot of places, it's really hard to step out of the box and be different and be who you really are, because everyone around here wants to be the same, because it's a very small town. So everyone knows everybody. So kind of speak on your background of why you have this armor and why it was there in the first place.
So, you know, it's something I love to share the story, just because I want people to be able to relate to that and know that, you know, you're not always limited by what you're always told and what you know, the experiences that you're stuck in when you're there. You know, growing up, you know, I was raised in a household, you know, as I was raised on a farm. Like I raised show goats of all things. So I did have that country boy persona, but then I also was raised by, you know, a family that I only had sisters, and, you know, they were in dance competitions and clogging competitions, and so is hair this, makeup that, you know. So
Fun fact, our parents or our moms went to high school together. I think they're different ages maybe, but they went to the same high school. So our families have kind of known each other for a long time. But I did ballet with his twin sisters at that. And so I just remember Creighton being this cute little, you were so cute, you're still cute, but you're so cute when you were a little bit running around, a little shithead if we're honest, but.
Hey, the one time being the genie, that was all I needed to do. Like carried a lamp, and that was enough stress for me. But, you know, so being from like these like two conflicting worlds, you know, it's like I had the like country life, and I had the like more of the feminine side that I was experiencing with my sisters. And, you know, when it come to, you know, school, it was always females that I was friends with. Like, and, you know, to be honest, it was more so the males that, because I, you know, was more in touch with that feminine side, that I was, you know, bullied a lot of the time. You know, it's like I struggled maintaining those, you know, bro friendships, because, you know, I was more family oriented than friend oriented, so I didn't like devote my life to being a bro, you know. And it's like, and plus I had that more of that feminine side, because everyone I was always around was, you know, females, that I was just majorly, you know, outcast, you know, you know, from a very young age, and you know, got bullying from that. And, you know, I don't like to harp in that, because I mean, I feel like there's so many people that it's like, I was bullied, so I couldn't do anything. And it's like, yes, I was bullied. Yes, I went through lots of anxiety and depression from it, but really that's what gave me the fuel to it.
You've never played this like victim mentality of like I was bullied, you know?
You know, like today I'm wearing a shirt that's covered completely in rhinestones. Like, do I think that's the most masculine shirt? No, I do not. However, I don't care anymore. You know, I'm happily married, straight male. I know that's not always the complete standard in this industry, especially, you know, in those like creative, you know, positions, and, you know, especially hairdressers. Not that I see anything wrong either way, it's just not the norm.
You have this box that per se, and I feel like this is a lot of people. It's like, this is the normal box that we should live in. And you don't fit anywhere in this
And
box.
if
Like, you're like a damn hexagon inside of this box. It's trying to like fit. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And so, you know, no matter what the sexuality is, no matter, it's just what I've been so cool about seeing your journey is you've come into like who Creighton actually is. And honestly, that right there is step one to success. Like, that is, you cannot have success until you figure out what that is. And we're speaking of this because I know we have a lot of listeners that are like, I'm dealing with that. Like, I haven't figured out who I am, and I'm not even necessarily happy with maybe who I am. And here's the thing about you guys, and this is something I've gone through with therapy with this year, is like, you cannot change who you are. No. You can't. It is not, it's never gonna happen. And so with that, you have to figure out how to love who you are. And so it's been cool to watch, because when you first started, you did struggle with that, you know, and like, you're always fighting to be like, you know, I'm not a gay man. I'm not, you know, I'm very straight. I just love different things, and what, you know, like per se, my husband's gonna love, you know, he is such a bro. He likes to hunt, he likes to fish, he likes to do all the man things. And actually you do like
I do those a lot as well.
You do actually like to do those things, but I think what's been so cool is like seeing my husband and you, and even you guys have a friendship. And, you know, Josh has even said before, he's like, Craig's not someone that I would ever think to be friends with. And I'm like, that's such a cool part of this story, because, you know, I think the one thing that Josh admires most about you, and this is just from an outside perspective, is that you are who you are. And that's such a cool thing to see, because it's difficult when you're coming from a place like you are.
I think, you know, part of that is coming from that bully background. You know, like, everything I always strived for was like to make people love me. But because of that, I didn't love myself. But, you know, in reality, until you love yourself, no one can love you. And, you know, that translates to so many things, whether that's your clients loving you, or, you know, even like the work you put out. Like, you know, as hairdressers, like, we are artists, and art communicates so many different things. And I know it sounds weird, but it's like, if you're putting out, like, if you hate, you know, if you're internally struggling and you hate yourself and you're not happy with who you are, the work you're putting out as an artist, like, it's going to translate to that. So your clients are like, they may like it, but they're not going to like love what they're getting, because you deep down didn't love what you did, because you didn't love who you were to do that. And I know that's a little pushing it, but I know, because I think this goes, and it goes with the any industry, you know, out there, like, and you think about people in your life, and I know you and I have experienced, you know, we've been hurt by people that are hurting. And, you know, that's a lesson that I've actually learned over and over again. And, you know, it's because that person doesn't love who they are. And you know when people don't love who they are. And that's what I'm so excited that we're talking about this, because I have also struggled with that. I feel like just this year, I mean, I think sometimes people look at me like I've got it all figured out. And just this year, and you know this, because you see the real and the raw behind the scenes of Terra. But I'm just now figuring out, like, I actually do love who I am. And, you know, the one thing I love about myself is that I love other people. And, you know, the people that know me know that. And then, but now I'm more comfortable with it. And you guys see that, like, more this year than ever. You guys are like, Terra, we feel like you're like stepping in, you know, like, you're fine now. Like, before it was kind of like, but I also had that armor and that wall. I still do sometimes. You still do sometimes. Introduce a new assistant, wall back up. No,
exactly. But yeah, I mean, like, now I feel like you serve your clients so well, and I want to move into that too next. But, you know, you serve people so well, and you have this like group of people who love you so much, is because you, in the last probably, I'd say year and a half, 2 years, now you're Creighton. And that's number one. People are like, I want to be successful. And a lot of times, like, my thought in my mind is like, you've got to figure out who you even are first. Like, you can't just step into this success. It just doesn't work like that. So
I will tell you, like, and this is just for any of you that are really looking at that social media and like trying to figure out like what you're doing wrong, what you're, you know, like what's not translating. And I know anybody that knows who I am on social media knows that my first name on there is not Creighton Ellis. Like my handle is the Hand-Tied Craftsman. I didn't even realize it up until, I guess, just a couple months ago.
Yeah. Let's tell this story.
We're just going to go there for a minute.
Because this is helpful with branding.
Yeah, I did not realize that through the Hand-Tied Craftsman, I had this secondary armor that I did not realize that I had built. Creighton Ellis was this kid that raised, show goats and, was bullied in high school. And the Hand-Tied Craftsman could be whatever I wanted him to be. He could wear designer. He could do great hair. He could have this awesome clientele. He could go to celebrity clients. Like, I created this image that wasn't necessarily not me, but it wasn't all of me.
Right.
It was just what I wanted people to see. And, we had this social media meeting as like a salon, a couple months back. And, I went into it like, man, I got this figured out. Like, it looks so good.
I have to go back. Hold on. So Aubrey, everyone knows Aubrey with Harper Ellis. She's our social strategist. She brought my whole entire salon team in and was like, okay, let's go through each and every person and just like as a group collectively and in a very healthy way, tell them what they could work on. Because sometimes, in one-on-one meetings as a leader, I'm like, you only listen to like half of what I say, if even half. I'm lucky, and it's not that you guys don't believe me or trust me. It's just that sometimes you need outside people to tell you.
Yeah.
And so we're all sitting at a round table at our conference room here in headquarters, and I was laughing so hard because Aubrey and I had this conversation before the meeting ever started, and I knew you came in with this like just like
ego.
the beginning, this like ego of like, oh, I've got this in the bag, and we kind of roasted you.
Just a little bit.
But tell them what we said and tell them what you learned from it.
Yeah. So pretty much what was said was, or what I took away from it was, that you've created this like stoic hand-tied craftsman that like wants every picture to be perfect, and you don't want one little thing out of place, and like you want the shiny version of everything. And they're like,
it's a very edited
it's
layout.
very like editorial, like what you would post on like a magazine if you're going to post about your life. And they're like, the truth is like your clients, they don't come to the Hand-Tied Craftsman. Your clients are coming and they meet this totally different person that's Creighton Ellis. It's who you truly are. So like, why are you not trying to attract clients with who you are as Creighton Ellis? Because that's what's getting them to stay. It's not the Hand-Tied Craftsman. And I immediately like shut down. Was like, what do you mean? Like, I did not know that there was such a big difference. And, coming from Terra and Aubrey, like, I trust that. But then I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. And then the entire salon backed them up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got some reflecting to do. So.
Well, and that's what you heard, which is what we said. But on our side of it, like, we know this Creighton. And now, like, even outside people, outside of our inner circle know you. And, using my mom or my own family, for example, like, they're always, like, if they talk about Creighton, it's like, I just love that boy. You're young compared to them. So I just love that boy, and he's the best, and he's so funny, and, all these, like, qualities that the world doesn't get from social media.
Yes. Yeah.
And it kind of comes full circle with what we've been talking about this whole time, is he had this armor and he was afraid. That's a very vulnerable side of Creighton. That's hard to show. I mean, same with my own social media and my own, building my own brand. I'm like, I don't want people to know that about me. Like, what? That leaves open doors for people to hurt me.
Yeah.
And it does. And it has. So, opening up and being who you really are is hard. And I feel like, the more that you and I coach other stylists, which is all the time, that's like the biggest thing. And we coach that a lot and it's even hard for us.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, especially since you've started doing that, which you've really started doing in the last just like few months.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what you
will get to.
Yeah, what you turn into, months from now or a year from now or years from now. Because now, like, more than ever, you're showing the world who you are. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot to be learned there, with this armor that you speak of, because we all have it.
Yeah.
And I know, like, through therapy, I thought every episode I've mentioned my therapy, because it has been such a helpful thing. And it's not cured me, and that's why I have a whole episode with therapy later on, but it's not cured me. It's just helped me understand that, like, I'm a human and my body is, like, operating the way that it should. And so, I don't know. I think that's so cool about you. You still have this wall up. I'm not sure that we'll ever see that wall come down.
Yeah.
Just because that's who you are.
It has lots of windows now, so you can open a window and crawl in if you want, but at least it's not as rigid. And
if they do crawl in, they may be eaten alive.
Yeah, like they made it. Some people can manage to get in.
Yeah. Because even like now, like, he takes on new assistants inside the salon, and like, I'll have to meet with them kind of without Creighton and be like, listen, I know, like, he's a tough cookie. Like, there's a shield around him, and it's like really hard to break that down, but you will break it down. Just give it some time and it'll all be okay, because you put on this persona of, like, it could come across negatively if people want it to, but it shouldn't come across that way, because you're not that.
It's all with good intentions, but it's like protecting myself versus like worrying about I don't want to say worrying about the feelings of others, because I care. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that.
Well, and I feel like, with this that you've had, I think that a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that are listening to this, you are using this, like, trauma that you've had, you're using this, like, hurt that you're experiencing, and it is 1,000,000% getting in the way of your success and this life that you want to live. And, like, that's the one thing which if you guys that have experienced the amount of success that Creighton has, that it's very painful behind the scenes. It's not easy. You don't just wake up and, look like this. It just doesn't happen. However, or live the life that Creighton does. But, however, I feel like a lot of people are using it, and it's keeping them from that amount of success when you've had this ability to go, I know my heart has been broken. I know I'm hurting. I know that I've experienced a lot of, pain and trials, and especially within, success in your career, but I'm not going to let it keep me from being who I want to be. Kind of tell them a little bit, like, I think a lot of people, they see this image and this very edited version of you on social media. So tell them, like, what is success to you? Because I think people don't have a clue what you really feel inside.
So, success to me is having financial freedom. It's having people love you for who you are.
I'm about to tell them what I called you about yesterday to talk about your financial freedom.
And, being able to take those times of, like, I guess let me back up for a second. Like, so much that I see is, like, when people are building their careers, they're fighting to hang on to, like, these things, like, oh, well, I don't want to give up my time with my family, and I don't want to, I don't want to risk, or I don't want to go about it and work so much that I don't have time for my hobbies or, my friends. But, the truth is like, if you sacrifice those for just a small amount of time, like, look at where I'm at now. And, I did that sacrifice. But, now I'm not sacrificing that, because I am able to live the life I want to live. Like, I can go on vacation if I want to. I can, do this, I can do that. Like, I'm looking at some new adventures right now that are scaring the heck out of me. But, it's like, it's the thing that I want for my future, and it's the thing that I know is going to be the best for my future. It's having that financial freedom. It's having that, career freedom that truly means that success for me.
Right. You're so right. Like, I think a lot of people think that success, you have to, like, sacrifice. You do.
Forever,
though. People think, oh my gosh, successful people, they don't have any work-life balance, which work-life balance is bullshit, you guys. Like, it it will never happen. That is, if you have accomplished that, like, please holler at me, because I bet I can prove you wrong that you haven't accomplished it. That's not, but I feel like a lot of people are searching for this like perfect life and this like balance of, and that's what I've loved about you, is like your journey hasn't been perfect by no means, and it hasn't been entertaining by no means. Like, I feel like a lot of people, you know, with success, they're like, oh, I always want this like, you know, dangle of berries in front of me, and I'm just always chasing something. And I'll never forget like a conversation you and I had. We're coming back from Nashville one time, and you were like sad and like you're probably a little depressed, and you know, I don't know if I picked up on it or if you just called me about it. I think I picked up on it a little. And I was just like, what's up? You know, and he goes, I am sad because I don't know what's next. Like, it's almost like you sort of lived out what dreams were you were wanting. You're like, I just got done with this really cool opportunity in Nashville, and now I just like, I don't know what to do. Like,
and you know, the cool thing about that was, and I'm not trying to say that's just, but this is just going to give you like kind of the high of it. It's like, I was actually in Nashville 2 weeks in a row. So it's like, I basically just come home to switch out suitcases and go right back. You know, the first week, it's like I taught a class. You know, she was like about to pop. I think you were like 8.5 months pregnant. So she sent me by myself. So it's like my first class by myself. Mostly it was like a mentor, program. But it, you know, it's still that freedom. And it's like, yeah, I've gotten somewhere in it, you know, with this education that, you know, like she trusts me enough to send me by myself. And then, you know, like the next week, it's like, you know, I was going out to, you know, do hair for a music video. So like these were both really big things of like, at the time I was like, those are what are, you know, success. And, you know, it's like that coming home, it's like, you know, I did drive home from, you know, Nashville, which I guess is like an 8-hour drive from here. And that whole 8-hour drive by myself, when it's real quiet and all I have to do is think, you know, I was like, I don't have another gig lined up. I don't have another individual class lined up. Not like that's what meant I was successful, that I had to have either of those, but that's what, you know, my mind was telling me, is because you don't have anything on the roster at this exact moment, you're a failure. Overlook what you just did for the past 2 weeks, which is, you know, opportunity that tons of people never even have in their career. And, you know, let the anxieties of the future, you know, get in the way of it. So, you know, when I did have that conversation with her, she was able to, like, one thing she said is, she's like, you know, one thing you're not doing is, she's like, you're not ever being content with where you're at. And she's like, you know, I'm not telling you to be complacent and just stay stuck where you're at. She's like, I'm saying, stop and smell the roses. Enjoy where you're at, when you're at it. You know, in the back of your mind, think about what you're going to do next. That way you can work towards it. But like, don't let what's next overshadow what was truly, you know, a great thing and what you should have been content with.
Right. And I think, like, you know, a lot of people, and because I've spent so long, the only reason why I was able to pick up the phone when you called me was because I also had dealt with that, you know. And so many people out there get success and the opportunity confused. Like, they're not the same, you know. And now I think more than ever, and I know just a reel was posted on my Instagram just this morning, and you know, it was like, success to me is that, you know, I have so much freedom now. And I know you feel the same way, and I'm about to talk about what I called you about yesterday. Sorry to rat you out. Sorry to rat you out. I'm about to embarrass you. But to finish what I was about to say, you know, success for me is, I have this financial freedom. And, you know, don't get me wrong, more money, more problems. That statement is totally true. You know, and now it's kind of like Josh and I, we've been putting off this like lake house talk that we've been needing to have for days and weeks, because we're like, should we do it? Can we afford it? You know, all the same money things that we all have. It's just different, you know. I have all the things I need. Now it's just extras. And so, you know, success though doesn't really come from material things for me anymore. It comes from like the experiences that I give myself. I just got off of a 5-day trip in the Virgin Islands with my girlfriends, and we rented a boat for 2 of the days, and one was pretty much a yacht, and just amazing experience that I would never be able to do if I didn't have it and worked so hard. But the opportunities aren't what is success. Because if you want to look at opportunity, like, you could say my career lately has been a little bit stagnant. Like, I haven't, if you want to say that, if you want to look at the things that are flashy. But for really behind the scenes, like, my opportunity has been very abundant lately. They're just different. And so,
and I think, on that, that flashy spectrum, it's like, people will look at your social media and they think that, like, oh, she's going to the Virgin Islands on, every other weekend. It's like, but the truth is like, wasn't this your first vacation in, what was it, 4 years? Something like that? That has truly been a vacation, that there wasn't work attached to it, or
a minute or hour that I set aside for emails and messages and
So I just wanted to point that out. I feel like it needs to be said.
Yeah, definitely. I think people, think I travel a lot, especially for my job, and people are like, oh, she's always vacationing. Yeah, you might see me pick up and go on a leisure trip, but that doesn't mean I'm not working while I'm there. And so this was my first one, that I didn't even care. I got up out of bed every day and I was like, I don't even care what's in that email. It can totally wait till I get back. And you know what? It did wait till I got back, and everyone was alive. It was awesome.
I mean, just from the guy that got to stay home for this trip, I will say, this was the first time she's like, I'm really trying to, like, take this time for myself. She's like, if you're dying, if you're bleeding, that salon's burning down, call me, but, like, the little problems, don't call me. And, I think, it's also a lesson for me, probably just as much as it's a blessing for her that I wasn't calling her. I didn't realize how much I, like, just call her for, like, a, hey, blah, 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 okay, bye. And, like, learning this, that week that she was gone is, like, I had to learn to trust myself in the decisions I was, making, even more so than on a daily basis, because I was like, there's, like, certain situations that happened throughout the week that I was like, oh my God, I need to call Terra. And then I was like, no, give her
she
time.
She said not to call
She said not to call. Like, this is not life or death, so I'm not going to call. And then, there's one situation where I was like, okay, Aubrey, this is a wording thing, talking with an influencer, and I'm like, I don't know if I trust myself, so I went through Aubrey, but I joked because I was like, okay, normally Terra's my sounding board, so sorry, but you're up by default, But other than that, like, all the other decisions that I got to, like, trust myself this week, and it honestly was, like, super eye-opening. Like, I appreciated it, but, like, but none of that would have been possible if it wasn't, like, the foundation of what I've been taught. And, like, and I even noticed that I could, like, pick up on, like, sounding like her. Like, like, some of it was, like, replying to messages, and I was like, yes, that is a Terra message.
That is what she would say.
That is exactly what she would say. And
WWTD.
So, it's definitely a thing. And so, because you've laid such a foundation for me, I can, channel that now. And so I appreciate that.
I'm, like, waiting on him to tell me he wants to run the place, because that would be awesome. But, here's the thing. All that to say, the freedom of what you've created is what we've decided. And we had another conversation not long ago in a one-on-one meeting about success, and it's just funny how our success has changed. It's not even close to the same. Some of you guys would be like, that's boring. But over time, you get older and you're like, what's important now it's not what was important to me 5 years ago. But I have to tell this story because, for the record, so yesterday, actually, I was on the phone with a financial mentor that I've been working with, and we were working through QuickBooks of 2022, and he was like, I think Creighton Ellis didn't cash a paycheck last year. And I was like, okay, that doesn't surprise me. And he goes, but it's like $3,500. And I was like, that doesn't surprise me. And he was just like, what kind of human doesn't even know? Like, not even just forget to cash it, but just doesn't ever even know. And I'm like, that guy does. I'm like, you go through the QuickBooks and see how much you made last year, and then you'll know why. But, it's just fun. We laugh, and you're like, I'm embarrassed and all the things, but it's because you've created this financial freedom that, like, and, I've been guilty of it too. You don't know if you're missing $3,000, and although next lesson is we're gonna keep up with our money better. However.
Notice I'm not talking about money keeping. That's not.
It's so funny.
Not fun. But I can teach you to make it.
Teach you to make it, just not
manage it. That's my wife.
You manage it well.
I do manage it well.
But anyway, it was just a funny, and last night when we were on the way home, me and my husband were, and he was just like, he's like, but I understand. He goes, and my husband has always, he's a penny pincher. No matter if my husband has $1 billion in the bank account at one time, he will know where every penny is. That's the one thing. That's why we are a great balance, because I do not. Yeah. But I was explaining to him, like, it's kind of like, we have to look at it through a computer digitally to know if we're short on money or, because there's so much going in and out. And so just a kind of it's a different way of living. And so then cool to watch you come to that and get to that. And Creighton makes more money than I do most of the time because and he only works 4 days a week, so I'm kind of bitter.
It's a little sad. Hey, I'm trying to work 5.
Yeah,
because I love being here on Wednesday. So
he comes to headquarters on a Wednesday sometimes.
Because I got that extreme FOMO, so if I know someone's doing anything on my day off, I gotta show up some reason.
Exactly.
If I need an excuse.
But yeah, so I'm excited that you guys have kind of heard from Creighton. There's so much things that we could talk about. I mean, there's so many layers to it. He's like an onion too. There's so many things. If you could give everyone advice, especially let's just say hairdresser.
Yeah.
If you could give a starting out hairdresser advice on to get to where you are now, what would it be?
I think my advice was don't get in your own way. I think that's what I see happen the most. That's what I was doing at the beginning was, I thought that there was this path that I was supposed to take and I was supposed to do it this way and this is the way I wanted to do it. But, the reality was, here was the path that, life was setting me up for. And was it the one I wanted to go on? No. But did that path get me to a greater place than this path could have probably ever have gotten me? Yes. And I think trusting yourself and trusting the process and doing the thing. And my biggest one, actually, not even that. I'm going to say,
scratch everything we just said.
Scratch everything I just said. Stop saying no.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that by you should agree to everything, but the biggest thing I see every single time that even with my own assistants, the ones that, are now giving me a run for my money and then there's the ones that don't or are not even in the industry, it's the big difference was the ones that said yes and made the opportunity work. They are the ones that have made it to success. The ones that are a constant no, or that's not what I want to do, or that's not how I want to do it, or that's not how I like to do it. They're the ones that have limited their future and their success because they've dug their feet in on one set idea. And I mean, that's...
Well, or do the bare minimum.
Yeah, or do the bare minimum.
I mean, just yesterday when I called you about your check that you didn't cash, you're like, I was in the back putting together a shelf.
Yeah.
That is not Creighton's job, nor do I really want it to be. However, as minute as that is and sounds, that's why, just that simple example is why he is where he is. And you weren't even having clients. You were staying there because you're actually helping one of your other stylists that you used to mentor get by through a really difficult client.
And this is actually 2 hours past when I got off. So, but that's, I think that, and that's just another lesson. I think as a mentor, she's looked up to me so much in my life and she helped me so much.
Kirsten.
This is Kirsten. Yeah. And it has gotten me so far in my career just by assisting me. Something as simple as staying 2 hours after I'm off and I don't have anything to do. That is a very little thing that I can do. Mm-hmm. And if that's what it takes to change her evening and change the way she feels at the end of the day, I think you should go above and beyond to do those little things.
Totally.
It is a little things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love about Creighton too is, that's something we haven't spoke on is now Creighton, he's our lead educator with Harper Ellis, but also inside the salon. And he gets all of the assistants first, basically. And it's a really hard job because he gets them and they are like a sponge with a lot of holes. And he has to fill those holes for the thing to be able to function. Mm-hmm. And so what I love about, he's had good and bad, assistants, basically. But he already, he assisted me for 2.5 years. So do the math. He's been with me for 5. The rest of that time he's been on his own. But within that time, he's already built a 6-figure stylist, and that's Kirsten inside of our salon. She's 21 years old. Her success.
I got to step up my game. That's all I gotta say.
He like gives him a run for his money
Yeah.
because she is so successful already. It's just been cool. Like, I think a lot of you guys out there are just like, oh, I've got to get to this point before I can do this and this and this, and it doesn't really work like that. You just have to like dig your heels in and go.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. You did awesome, by the
thank
way.
you. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. We need to do more of these because Creighton and I have so much to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But
We could talk for hours.
exactly.
And
But
Kane told us to talk quieter, so we're trying.
yeah, he told us before this episode started that we yell, and I'm like, what?
But he said it's just us two. I don't know where that come from.
But yeah, so past that, if you are not following Creighton on Instagram, he is at the Hand-Tied Craftsman. So make sure that you go follow him, follow along his journey. And now that you know kind of the insides of the journey, I feel like it's going to be even more fun to follow along because there's a lot to Creighton. And him and his wife are adorable. He's got 2 adorable dogs. I keep telling him, like, wait till you reproduce those dogs. Those dogs are going to be outside. I'm just kidding. Dog lovers, don't come after me. However, it's how it is. So I'm just excited that you guys have listened today and get to know Creighton, follow along with him, and thanks for listening.